On February 22, 2019, Spanish law enforcement established a perimeter around the North Korean embassy located in Madrid. Inside the diplomatic facility, 8 delegates were found restrained and gagged on the floor. However, the twist was startling. The assailants were neither professional military forces nor agents from the CIA or Mossad. They comprised a small group of volunteers, educators, university attendees, and one former Marine. Their arsenal consisted of replica firearms purchased from a hobby store for a total of €833. Over a period of 5 hours, they systematically searched every hard drive, mobile device, and secret file that the North Korean leader, Kim Jong-un, wished to keep hidden from the world. When police officers knocked at the main gate, a sharply dressed individual emerged, displayed a diplomatic identification pin, and calmly instructed the authorities to leave. Astonishingly, the police complied and departed. Under the cloak of night, the intruders disappeared into the suburbs of Madrid, carrying with them terabytes of classified North Korean information. This event stands as the most daring embassy invasion in contemporary history, executed by ordinary citizens armed only with airsoft pistols. But what about the mastermind behind this operation? He was about to learn that deceiving a dictator was the simplest challenge. Who was this Yale alumnus who became a resistance figure? And why did the United States government ultimately abandon him to Pyongyang? Adrian Hong had previously held a position briefing a sitting U.S. president at the White House on humanitarian concerns across East Asia. Sleek, articulate, and often seen wearing a black turtleneck, Hong was rapidly ascending through political spheres. Born to Korean parents and having grown up moving between Mexico City and California, Hong obtained his degree from Yale University. In his early 20s, he established Liberty in North Korea, a non-profit organization dedicated to facilitating the escape of defectors from China. He offered counsel to global leaders and delivered a presentation at TED. Princeton extended a fellowship invitation, and numerous Fortune 500 corporations sought his presence on their executive boards. Yet his identity is now flagged on international Interpol notices. There are reports that North Korean hitmen have been deployed specifically to assassinate him. The FBI currently labels him as armed and dangerous. How did a celebrated humanitarian transform into one of the planet's most wanted men? The story begins in 2006. Hong spent 7 days incarcerated in Beijing prison for his actions aiding North Korean refugees in their journey towards safety in Mongolia. While there, he witnessed Chinese guards forcibly return a heavily pregnant defector to the border, knowing she faced either execution or forced labor upon repatriation. He concluded that endless reports and academic conferences would never succeed in dismantling a terror-based police state. Consequently, Hong ceased authoring policy documents and began developing something substantially different. In early 2017, a secretive online platform emerged titled Cholima Civil Defense. The name referenced a fabled winged horse from Korean mythology. The site presented itself with vague, foreboding messages and highly secure proton mail contact information, resembling a complex alternate reality game. In truth, it functioned as an underground escape network. Adrian Hong had meticulously organized a confidential network encompassing safe houses, field operatives, and financial backers, spanning from Seoul all the way to San Francisco. His team included a diverse range of individuals, from technology millionaires versed in cryptocurrency to former special operations personnel who had volunteered their time. Operating in total secrecy, Hong's organization successfully evacuated defectors, often entire families, one by one. In 2017, however, the organization's focus shifted to a vastly more perilous operation. Kim Jong-nam, the estranged older half-brother of Kim Jong-un, was murdered using the potent VX nerve agent at a Malaysian airport on February 13, 2017. The military-grade poison was reportedly applied to his face by two women in the check-in area of Kuala Lumpur International who were deceived into believing they were participating in a hidden camera prank show for Japanese television. Gangnam succumbed to the poison within 20 minutes. Pyongyang wasted no time in identifying their subsequent target. Kim Han-sol, the 21-year-old estranged older half-brother of Kim Jong-un, who was then residing in Macau under nominal Chinese surveillance. Han-sol posed a generational challenge to the North Korean dynasty, a rival claim to the throne that Kim Jong-un deemed intolerable. Less than 8 days after the murder, Hong's organization executed a retrieval mission that many intelligence specialists later deemed impossible. They successfully escorted Han-sol, his mother, and his sister out of Macau, bypassing Chinese surveillance and North Korean assassination squads, transporting them to an undisclosed location. Cholima Civil Defense subsequently broadcast a video featuring Han-sol. The young man, holding his passport to verify his identity, thanked his anonymous rescuers by name while looking directly into the camera. A direct descendant of the ruling Kim family was publicly thanking a dissident movement for saving his life. This decisive action immediately put a massive, permanent target on Adrian Hong. He had publicly embarrassed a totalitarian leader notorious for eliminating his own kin for minor transgressions. Hong had demonstrated the capability to penetrate security measures globally and extract high-value targets. By the close of 2018, Hong's collective had rebranded as Free Joseon and declared itself a provisional government in exile. Through secure communication channels and covert meetings spanning 3 continents, Hong began detailing his most audacious action yet, a physical attack on recognized North Korean sovereign territory to be carried out on European soil, specifically timed just prior to an important nuclear disarmament meeting. He was not a hardened soldier or an intelligence agent. He was a 35-year-old political activist staking his entire existence on the belief that ordinary citizens could outwit a nuclear-armed regime. Could this group of volunteers truly invade a dictator's stronghold and make it out alive? And even if they achieved success, who would be there to safeguard them from the inevitable repercussions? Recruiting the team for the mission was comparable to casting a major motion picture heist, but the consequences were absolutely real and non-negotiable. Adrian initiated a search for an unconventional team lineup. The roster included Christopher Ahn, a 38-year-old former highly decorated Marine sergeant. Ahn had previously led reconnaissance teams during the fiercest fighting in Fallujah and carried lasting reminders of the conflict in the form of shrapnel embedded in his shoulder. Sam Ryu, a 28-year-old American University graduate, had invested several months rigorously training in close-quarters combat techniques and internalizing North Korean diplomatic protocols. 2 South Korean university students who were barely old enough to rent a vehicle legally in the United States, and 1 European cryptocurrency financier who had transformed a modest inheritance into significant wealth and now motivated to dedicate that money to a meaningful cause. These individuals were not highly specialized forces like Navy SEALs or vetted CIA case officers. Instead, they were teachers, IT specialists, and committed activists. All of them understood clearly that failure and capture meant being transported to a Pyongyang detention center for interrogation, culminating in a forced public confession and ultimately death by firing squad or forced labor. By the end of 2018, the assembled crew converged in Madrid utilizing fabricated identities. They lodged in various hotels across different parts of the city, never meeting in the same location more than once. Their only means of secure communication involved disposable cell phones and encrypted messaging services that automatically erased conversations after 60 seconds. Every member meticulously composed a final letter to their family, sealed it with instructions for delayed delivery, and committed the location of a designated escape sanctuary in Lisbon to memory. Their objective, the North Korean diplomatic mission, a humble two-story residence situated in a quiet residential area known as Aravaka. The property was characterized by untended vegetation and minimal oversight. The North Korean ambassador, Kim Hyuk-chol, had been urgently recalled to Pyongyang, leaving behind only a skeleton staff. Satellite surveillance data revealed antiquated security systems with improperly angled cameras. Consequently, only one junior diplomat, his family, and a few administrative employees remained on the premises. The operation's blueprint was a combination of a humanitarian rescue and a high-risk intelligence theft. If any official decided to abandon the regime, Hong was prepared to provide an immediate escape route. If not, the team was instructed to seize every computing device, mobile phone, and confidential file they could transport. Just 2 days before the planned action, operatives purchased necessary equipment from a Madrid hardware outlet, paying exclusively in cash. Their haul included 10 industrial crowbars, heavy-duty bolt cutters, a retractable 4-meter ladder, utility pliers, and 33 rolls of adhesive tape. Hong himself visited a specialized police supply shop, popular among off-duty officers, where he acquired 4 tactical blades, 5 sets of metal restraints, several black fabric hoods, rapid-access holsters, and 6 imitation airsoft pistols. The ensemble was completed with counterfeit North Korean lapel badges and fake diplomatic credentials. The total equipment expenditure, essential for assaulting a nuclear state's diplomatic mission, amounted to $833.15, less than the price of a standard laptop. The timing of the raid was intentionally explosive. Within 5 days, Kim Jong-un was scheduled to meet Donald Trump for a crucial nuclear disarmament summit in Hanoi. Global diplomats were holding their breath, hoping for a successful diplomatic conclusion. Hong intended to introduce an immediate destabilizing element. On the morning of February 22, 2019, at precisely 4:32 p.m., a luxury black sedan smoothly approached the embassy gates. Adrian Hong, impeccably dressed in a bespoke navy suit and refined wireframe spectacles, exited the vehicle carrying a sophisticated gift bag containing $400 worth of premium Spanish Iberian ham. It was the customary tribute expected of a serious international investor arriving for a preliminary discussion. Hong used the intercom, presenting himself in flawless Korean as Matthew Chow, a representative of the fictional Berenstain Capital, specializing in underdeveloped nation infrastructure. Hong had established this persona weeks prior, meeting a lower-level embassy employee at a Madrid restaurant to discuss lucrative development opportunities in North Korea, thus ensuring his current visit appeared entirely routine. The gate clicked open, and Hong stepped inside. In the bright foyer, a duty officer offered a customary low bow. The officer's gaze lingered on the luxurious gift bag as Hong offered a confident, easy smile. 3 seconds later, 6 figures, clad entirely in black and masked, burst through the intentionally unlatched door. Replica handguns were raised, and sharp commands in Korean shattered the lobby's quiet. The officer, realizing the gravity of the invasion, transitioned from confusion to sheer terror in an instant, dropping immediately to his knees with his hands up. Panic consumed the compound. The masked intruders swept through the offices and the kitchen, quickly subduing the entire staff. Their intimidating black gear and full-face balaclavas rendered the scene nightmarish. 2 members of the embassy staff who attempted to resist were struck with the metal crowbars, leaving them injured and bleeding on the tiled floor. In under 8 minutes, 8 individuals were lined up kneeling, their wrists tightly secured with adhesive tape, and their mouths silenced with strips torn from the same rolls. Former Marine Christopher Ahn issued concise orders in military-grade Korean, executing the takeover with the efficiency of a combat veteran clearing a fortified structure. One nervous young activist's hands shook so violently he struggled to apply the restraints properly to a terrified female secretary. Hong quickly located the chargé d'affaires and forced him down to the utility room in the basement. Surrounded by noisy pipes and dusty water heaters, Hong tore the tape from the diplomat's mouth. "We are here to facilitate your defection. We can secure your exit from Spain tonight. You will be safe." The North Korean official was left utterly dumbfounded. If he agreed, his immediate family back in Pyongyang would face execution. If he refused, the armed men standing right there might kill him on the spot. He firmly declined the offer. A fleeting sense of defiance crossed his eyes. His loyalty remained with the supreme leader. The mission immediately shifted focus to extraction. The team efficiently collected laptops, desktop computers, mobile phones, USB drives, and documents. One operative tore the camera surveillance hard drives directly from the wall. Another discovered a secret drawer filled with encrypted cellular devices, likely utilized by North Korean intelligence agents across Europe. Hong marched directly into the empty ambassador's main office and seized the framed portrait of Kim Jong-un as a symbolic trophy. Upstairs, the diplomat's spouse heard the escalating commotion and hurried footsteps. She pried open a window. The drop to the central courtyard was 2 stories. Desperate, she lifted her 8-year-old son over the sill and let him fall onto a soft garden patch below, then leapt after him. Her ankle fractured on impact, and blood began streaming down her face. She began crawling toward the street, her son sobbing next to her, until a passing motorist slammed on the brakes and immediately called emergency services. Within moments, Spanish police sirens began to echo, converging on the embassy, a diplomatic compound now the site of an armed assault on foreign soil, a situation no officer was trained for. Inside, Hong's team, still focused on cracking a small safe, remained unaware of the police outside until a shouted warning alerted them. An operative peered cautiously through the blinds. Patrol cars lined the curb. Officers were crouched behind car doors, weapons poised. Blue lights flashed off the metal gate. For the first time, Hong felt genuine panic. The entire operation was hanging by a single thread. He quickly donned a spare blazer and fastened a stolen Kim Il-sung lapel pin. "Keep securing the bags. Prepare to exit through the back." He smoothed his hair, wiped the sweat and blood from his face, and proceeded alone to the front gate. A Spanish police officer raised his weapon and yelled, "Stop! Identify yourself!" Hong slowly raised his hands, displaying the fake lapel pin and the stolen diplomatic jacket. If his composure wavered, it was over. If he showed any sign of fear, it was over. But he did not. With a calmness that belied the situation, he looked the officer directly in the eye and stated, "A simple accident. Everything is under control. She is being attended to. Everything is under control." Behind him, 2 members of Free Joseon materialized wearing stolen suits, playing the role of convincing diplomatic staff. The Spanish police's training screamed that something was wrong, yet international law prohibited them from entering the sovereign territory of the embassy without authorization. With a curt, formal bow, Hong added, "We hold the efforts of the Madrid police in high regard. We thank you for your concern, but we require no assistance." Then he calmly closed the heavy metal gates in their faces. The diplomatic police vehicles pulled away slowly. Hong's team took a breath, knowing their window of opportunity was vanishing fast. They had gained precious minutes, but nothing more. The raiding party swiftly completed the removal of their seized assets: portable digital storage, small data drives, telecommunication chips, and 2 stationary computers, wires still hanging loose. In the secluded vehicle bay, they located a luxury sedan and an executive car, both bearing official diplomatic tags, perfect vehicles for a rapid departure. At 9:40 p.m., marking almost 5 full hours within the diplomatic compound, they remotely bypassed the perimeter lock and slipped into the dim Madrid night. Hong, accompanied by 3 others, exited through a back service door, disappeared into a narrow passage, and quickly entered an awaiting rideshare vehicle hailed under the pseudonym Oswaldo Trump. As they sped away into the city lights, the realization set in. They had invaded state territory of North Korea and successfully extracted themselves. But would the nation to whom they were offering a significant cachet of sensitive information greet them as international heroes or condemn them as common criminals? The day following the intrusion, Adrian Hong secured passage on a commercial airline departing from Lisbon, carrying massive amounts of classified digital material in his carry-on bag. His destination was Manhattan, New York. Hong's strategic objective was to present this haul to contacts within the U.S. Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, hoping to initiate a collaborative effort against the authoritarian North Korean regime. Hong was certain the information, which he believed could reveal illegal North Korean activities across Europe, expose clandestine agents operating under embassy protection, and supply significant leverage in the high-stakes nuclear talks, would be welcomed. Yet, after Hong's meeting in downtown Manhattan, a profound silence descended. No confirmation arrived from D.C., no subsequent meetings were requested, no inquiries into the source data materialized. Unbeknownst to Hong, in secure rooms across the capital, the administration of President Trump was preoccupied. The nuclear summit with Kim Jong-un in Hanoi was just 5 days away, a pivotal, high-risk diplomatic endeavor. Washington's immediate priority was avoiding any international incident stemming from a non-state actor's attack that could disrupt the bilateral talks. The U.S. Department of Justice made a strategic decision that would irrevocably alter Adrian Hong's future. Hong's dedicated team members were not viewed as partners requiring defense, they were liabilities to be discarded. The FDI immediately surrendered all electronic devices to Spanish authorities without performing any analysis or extraction of the contents. Spain, keen on mending diplomatic ties with Pyongyang, promptly packaged the computing hardware, mobile communication devices, and digital storage units and formally returned them to the North Korean delegates. It had taken Hong a full decade to construct his covert organization. It took American federal authorities 5 days to dismantle its hard-won gains, all in a fruitless attempt to preserve a summit that failed days later regardless. The U.S. government accepted the stolen materials Hong risked everything to retrieve and essentially presented them to Kim Jong-un as a gesture of goodwill. If those devices contained lists of intelligence sources, the identities of North Korean defectors, or records of covert exchanges, they were now firmly in the dictator's hands. All individuals named in that material faced fatal repercussions. On April 18, 2019, U.S. Marshals detained Christopher Ahn in Los Angeles, acting on an international request for extradition filed by Spain. The charges included forced entry, unlawful confinement, and aggravated theft. The next day, federal authorities publicly issued a warrant for Adrian Hong, identifying him as the ringleader of a criminal enterprise. Lee Wolosky, the legal counsel representing the dissident group, forcefully criticized the Justice Department for crediting Pyongyang's version of events without skepticism. His strong objections had no effect. The government of the United States had chosen to ally itself with Kim Jong-un, betraying its own citizens in the process. Law enforcement units subsequently searched an apartment associated with Hong in California. He was gone. The active warrant described him as armed and dangerous, a 6-foot-tall athletic male. A nationwide search was launched. Spanish courts publicly identified Hong, Ahn, and the others involved as suspects. North Korea denounced the embassy breach as an act of state-sponsored terrorism and demanded accountability for the perpetrators. An international alert was distributed featuring Hong's aliases, including Matthew Chow and Oswaldo Trump. The FBI not only failed to process the intelligence, but then handed it, and the data itself, not just the hardware, directly back to the adversary, putting a permanent target on Hong's back. Hong later admitted that learning of the transfer made him violently ill. He said, "It felt like I was betrayed by someone I trusted implicitly." The operation had succeeded. The political fallout had eradicated every advantage. Washington betrayed Hong to appease a geopolitical enemy, even as the anticipated summit failed days later. Now pursued by two global powers and targeted by North Korean hit squads, Hong was left with two options: surrender and face a lengthy imprisonment, or disappear entirely. He chose the latter. But can any man truly evade capture when the FBI and Pyongyang are both determined to find him? And what fate awaited his comrades who were left to deal with the fallout? In the spring of 2019, Los Angeles, federal agents maintained surveillance on a particular light-colored car in a retail complex parking area, a vehicle rumored to be driven by Hong. They photographed every person entering or leaving the vicinity. They checked the registration tags of every parked vehicle. Hong, however, was nowhere to be found. By the time U.S. Marshals arrived to execute the warrant at his residence in the pre-dawn hours, Adrian Hong had vanished completely, becoming a true phantom. No financial records, no mobile signals, no digital traces remained. His associates and kin received no communication, no sign of his whereabouts, and no confirmation that he was still alive. Some analysts speculated he had fled to a friendly regime like South Korea or Taiwan. Others suggested he remained concealed locally in California, protected by the sympathetic network that helped build his dissident movement. The FBI's LA Bureau, experienced in hunting international drug lords and mob bosses, documented in internal reports that their high-value target had entirely evaded their detection. The leader of the only organization to ever penetrate North Korean sovereign territory had melted back into the very clandestine world he created years ago.
The United States State Department was forced to pledge that any captured individuals would not be handed over to foreign nations without explicit Washington approval. This offered little peace of mind. While Adrian Hong eventually secured his freedom through bail, the psychological toll was immense, leaving him haunted by anxiety and sleeplessness. He remains trapped in a legal stalemate that shows no sign of resolving. Meanwhile, the FBI targeted other members of the Free Joseon group across America, raiding homes and issuing subpoenas that destroyed professional lives in an instant. One student activist who thought he was joining a noble cause for liberation found himself kicked out of school and facing years of federal imprisonment for standing up to a tyrant. In Pyongyang, the ruling elite were furious. State-run outlets pointed fingers at the CIA for the Madrid mission, though American intelligence agencies denied any role. Hong's legal team claims the North Korean government sent assassins to track him down. These fears are grounded in reality. This is the same administration that used chemical weapons to kill Kim Jong-un in a public airport. They have a long history of kidnapping defectors and returning them home for execution. If you were in Hong's shoes, every stranger in a shop or every car behind you on the road would feel like a potential threat to your life. Despite living in the shadows, Hong's reputation only grew. For those who fled the regime, he became a legendary figure, the individual who dared to strike at the heart of the Kim dynasty and got away. On the internet, rumors circulate that he is being protected by secret sympathizers who provide the funds necessary to keep him hidden. The Free Joseon movement hasn't stopped. They even marked the centenary of the 1919 independence protests by declaring a government in exile, complete with their own founding documents and a crypto-based fundraising system. By 2020, the group was linked to the defacement of the North Korean embassy in Germany, where they left messages condemning the leadership. Adrian Hong has effectively become a symbol of defiance. He is a ghost in the system, driving a revolution from an unknown location. To this day, he remains a wanted man in the eyes of the law, yet no new information regarding his whereabouts has been released. In Spain, the courts moved forward with a trial, even though the lead defendant was missing. In response, North Korea reinforced its diplomatic outposts and likely executed anyone blamed for the security lapse in Madrid. For a leader like Kim Jong-un, any perception of weakness is unacceptable. What was the true impact of Hong's actions? A small group of private citizens managed to penetrate the territory of a nuclear-armed state and escape, something professional spies haven't achieved in decades. He revealed that the regime is not invincible, showing that their most secure locations can be compromised. He turned the tables on their climate of fear. While some label him a lawbreaker or a radical, for those who survived the horrors of North Korean labor camps or lost family over something as small as a foreign movie, Adrian Hong represents hope. He proved that conviction and courage can shake the very pillars of a dictatorship. Will he ever return to the public eye? Perhaps the truth will only be revealed if the current regime collapses. Until then, he remains an enigma, a man who beat a superpower at its own game and vanished like a shadow. His journey leaves us with a haunting question. What are you willing to sacrifice to fight injustice, and who will be there to support you when the world turns against you? Hong showed that even amateurs can embarrass a giant, but his story is just one chapter in a larger war. Another individual managed to disrupt North Korea's entire digital infrastructure from a single computer at home. Follow the link to discover that story.